Korea and Europe, SKT and Origen. The energy in this building is massive. There's very clearly a fan favorite in this arena, though.
You could say that. It's Europe versus Korea round one.
I think it's safe to say.
Round one.
It is round one. We'll have round two tomorrow. Now, as the teams take their places on stage, let's look at how these two stack up. Comparing their average gold difference from all of their games at Worlds, it really is a tale of two different teams.
Yeah, and a lot of this comes from SKT being undefeated, but it does go to show how badly they have been beating their opponents and how Origen has been grinding out wins in a lot of close or deficit-filled games. Even at the 25-minute mark, Origen still doesn't average a gold lead.
And that also is deceptive because we look at their average game time of 42 minutes. Their wins are even longer than their average game time. So this is a team that's been taking a long time to actually grind out those victories and staying kind of a little bit below their opponents for most of the game when it comes to the gold score.
Two play styles that are sure to clash here today. Now, it's important also to note that Easyhoon is subbing in for Faker in the mid lane. So, my question to you guys is, how does this affect the dynamic of that mid lane matchup against SKT?
Well, I think from what we've seen so far, I'm not going to sit here and justify starting Easyhoon. He's a wonderful player, but then there's also Faker. I think maybe the logic here is that Easyhoon likes to play control mages, which we've seen a lot from SKT so far, teleporting back into the mid lane consistently, just playing a more passive style in the laning phase. So SKT may be just trying to beat Origen at their own game. They say, all right, if you're going to play teleport, we can't kill you with Faker in the laning phase. Well, maybe we'll play a control mage and just scale with you and then win in late game team fights.
Yeah, I think the school of thought really has to be we just want to play the way Origen does. We don't really want to snowball the early game. We don't want to snowball the mid lane. We just want to focus on side lanes, let mid lane go even. But I do think Faker would be the better choice here. Yes, you can play their style and probably beat them at it, but putting in Faker, you can still play that style that SKT has been. It doesn't really force you to play differently. The one gambit you get from playing Faker is now you have every single counter pick in the game. He's going to play everything mid against Anivia. Are you kidding me? He's going to play like ridiculous things. And I think that's what Faker would be giving to the team.
And if we're trying to justify this move from SKT's standpoint, I think a lot of it comes back to what they were doing at the spring split and at MSI. They have said the team has slightly better cohesion with Easyhoon at times. He demands less pressure from the rest of the team. And in games where Easyhoon plays, often you see more attention spent on Bang and on Marn. And with the way Marn has been performing so far, there's a chance they're just going for that play.
And of course, there's always the possibility of a swap back sometime during the series. But we speak about pressure and how Easyhoon in the mid lane might allow for more pressure elsewhere on the map. I feel like we then have to turn to the junglers and look at these two, particularly given the fact that Gragas is off the table today. What are we looking at?
This is really interesting, because if we look at total jungle picks so far at Worlds, Elise has been played 38 times, Gragas and Rek'Sai 29 each, Lee Sin below them at 14, and then Evelyn's been played 3 times. And it's actually quite easy to pinch you down to that list of junglers only being paid 3 times. So we could see some weird junglers today.
And interestingly enough, 2 of those 3 games were played by one from Bengi and one from Amazing coming into this match. So I think that this is actually very favorable for SK Telecom. And the reason why is that you have Bengi, who's a player who, when we know him as a very strong pathing jungler. It's about his intelligence on where to be at the exact right time and getting that vision down so his lanes can really play aggressively, especially up and top, and not so much with Easyhoon, but usually in mid. So when we're switching back to a more passive style of jungling, I think this really just falls right into Bengi's wheelhouse, and on champions like Evelyn and like Nunu, he can be successful.
Well, I think the biggest advantage that this kind of gives to you is not just SKT, but any blue side team right now. Because at the moment, you get to choose what purple side bans. They have to ban Mordekaiser Gangplank. That's going to happen. But now, if you third ban Rek'Sai, there's no longer a chance for you to just leave up Elise and Gragas and play those 2. You have to follow that up with an Elise ban. So you no longer can ban out Azir. You can no longer ban out this like Tom Kench annoying kind of bot lane stuff. So it really forces blue side. Like, do we want to leave up both junglers, or do we want to ban junglers?
Yeah, well, I will say, if they're going to be doing that, you have to put a pretty big investment in, especially against Amazing, because I think his Lee Sin, even though he hasn't played it much, is probably his best champion, and it's his most played historically. Especially if you look at solo queue, it's what he likes to play, and it's an aggressive style. So you have to be willing to throw probably 2 bans as well as a first pick if you actually do want to be able to take the Lee Sin away from him.
And another good reason to play, for example, Easyhoon, is he is one of the best Azir players in the world. He's better than Faker at Azir. He's better than Faker at Twisted Fate. And if usually how teams deal with Easyhoon in the lineup is with bans. They have 3 red side games. I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with Easyhoon's champion pool very easily.
Yeah, it's a large one to say the least. Now it's time to move to the top lane, which has been the trend of the tournament. We have two guys in the top lane here who have proven at times that they can carry. However, on a game-to-game basis, Marin has been the picture of consistency, SOAS has stumbled at times.
And I think a lot of it just comes down to the safety in which you play aggressive. SKT has been able to cover the map better with wards than Origen, but SOAS is playing just as greedy as Marin is. He just doesn't have knowledge of when he's going to get counterganked. Origen had the lowest number of green wards in the first 15 minutes, and SOAS would end up dying because he's playing like he has the vision control, whereas Marin's been able to get the backup from the rest of his team. I think that leads to the consistency.
Yeah, the one weakness Marin has always had, though, is sometimes he's very vulnerable to level 3 ganks. He has been known to not drop his trinket ward at the right time and fall prey to some very predictable ganks in the early game, so that may be a strategy that we see Origen try to use here. Because if you get Marin to the late game, like Jat's saying, totally agree, he'll get the wards down. Whereas SOAS, he tends to overextend, get greedy for farm, and die. So attack Marin early has usually been a successful strategy.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's going to be weird for Origen, because a lot of the time you think SOAS is greedy because he doesn't have the jungler to back him up during that. He's not farming like without any reason. It's like, well, I need to farm this or I'm going to be really out of the game. So if Origen wants to push the jungler away from the bot lane, which they have been doing, is putting it bot lane, then I think SOAS can fix his like consistency problem, because I don't think it's like on him alone.
I was about to.
It's a team thing, for sure. Yeah,
and that's why I think it's very
thing.
interesting that we point out Bengi has the earliest sidestone buy of any jungler on average in this tournament. And that could be where a lot of that safety is coming from in the top lane. Want to move to the bottom half of the map. Now we've got to look at the AD carries. We have the rookie Niels going up against the KDA king here at Worlds. Bang.
This is a great matchup. I mean, I think part of the reason Niels has had so much success is because of the pressure Amazing has been giving Mithy and the rest of that bottom lane down there. Niels has the highest CS differential at 10 minutes of any AD carry still in this tournament. And he also has the highest kill participation, meaning they're pretty much waiting for Niels to do work before the team does anything. And the solo laners are either farming on their own, trying to stay alive, or just teleporting down to help Niels. It's will be very fun to see whether or not Bang neutralizes that.
And we saw, I mean, too, the question is, will that KDA stick around? But in order to determine that, I want to look at their better halves in the bot lane, the supports, Mithy, and Wolf.
I think this is honestly an advantage towards Mithy this game, although the support pool is kind of shrinking, in my opinion. I think top-tier supports are becoming really, really obvious, so I don't think the skill differential will matter that much. I think this is kind of like, as well as Mithy and Wolf can work with their jungler, that's going to be the most important thing, and not necessarily how they play in laning phase.
Well, we also saw at least the Tahm Kench come out for SK Telecom in the quarterfinals. That was really the one sort of new pick we saw from the team. They ended up playing it very well, and it worked out. So now we know that Wolf has that in his arsenal of support champions, and he can continue to be a threat on that particular pick, where we didn't really know that particular thing before.
Yeah, and even if we look at the champion pools, like Mithy, if the support pool is shrunk or if he's going for some wider picks, because he has the most unique champions played. He's tied with a lot of different players at Worlds at 7 here, and only one other support, Gorilla, has played 7 different supports. These two supports actually share 5 of the same picks. And I actually think Wolf doesn't have as much champion versatility. If it's probably unlikely, because the way the jungle pick is, they're going to be probably targeted with bans and the width of the champion pools in mid lane. But if the support pool does get targeted a little bit, I think it gives Mithy an edge, because he seems to be able to play a lot more than Wolf.
All right, we've covered the map, top, jungle, mid, AD carry, and support. With all of this in mind, it's time to move to the predictions, gentlemen. Who is going to be the first team to claim a spot in the 2015 World Championship Finals? Probably, we're starting with you.
I don't want to betray my European brethren right now, but I will have to say SKT, and sorry, you asked for my prediction.
You can't boo him. He admitted that he was going to betray you before he did it.
Yeah, I prepped the bandage before I tore it off. But if we look at Origen during Summer Split, they had really aggressive early games, mid games, and certain analysts would judge their late games because they never really play them out very correctly. Now we're looking at Origen, and they're completely different. They actually play pretty slow mid game. They don't really snowball hard. And they actually play a really consistent mid-late game where they just drag out the game, which is now SKT's style they're good at. And I think this is what's bad for them right now.
Now on to the man with the chainmail SKT tie.
I
can only assume where we're going here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's, I mean, I think this prediction is pretty ironclad, like my tie, so I'm going to have to go with SK Telecom T1 here. Well, you can boo me as much as you want.
It's actually a chainmail tie.
It
so
It actually is a chainmail tie, ladies and gentlemen.
And, one thing that I wanted to talk about, too, is, Spawn's not on the desk today, unfortunately, to give his prediction. So what I have is this €1 coin, which is about the same accuracy as Spawn. So we're going to get his prediction right now, a little coin flip. And he is going to head, so SK Telecom. So given his track record, I guess that means Origen wins.
All right.
There it is. There should be cheers in the crowd right now.
Yeah. Well, you guys go with SKT. The coin goes with SKT. I will say Origen. Listen. SKT has had the easiest road of any team here at Worlds. If you look at the other teams in their group, H2K, Bangkok Titans, also their quarterfinal opponent against HQ, where they almost lost a game to HQ. They gave up 4 Dragons, if not for the Baron. Which is why I think Origen 1-3, they can win a single game, and my prediction for this series is actually SKT, 3-1.
The switcheroo, ladies and gentlemen. That's something you boo right there. All right, well, we'll find out as Origen and SKT are about to hit the rift. But before we get to the casters, Shox is standing by for a word with one of the Season 3 world champions looking to reclaim the Summoners Cup.